Welcome to ConvHERsations with Kristie, brought to you by Herverse, a community where women who lead, build, and grow come together. This is a space for real, unscripted conversations with bold leaders who are creating impact. No fluff, no filters, just honest insights to help you lead well and live fully. Because at Herverse, we believe leadership isn't meant to be done alone. I am confident you are going to love it. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode. Y'all, I'm so to say I'm excited is an understatement. I recently met Tana and we just immediately had this bond. I feel like I've actually known you forever instead of just the few short months that we've known each other. But I'm really excited to introduce you to this week's guest. This is Tana Kramer. Tana, welcome. And would you love to introduce yourself and who you are?
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. Like, your energy is contagious. What you build is amazing. And so I'm so excited to participate. But yeah, my name is Tana Kramer. I am the founder and CEO of TK Solutions, which is a fractional CFO and accounting, don't love the word firm, but accounting company where we really focus on helping women business owners, typically service providers in the 1 to 5 million in revenue. We help them figure out finance so that they can lead from a place of grounded decision making, and we really focus on just making sure that they are held, have the support that they need, and are really growing sustainably and profitably. I'm also married. I have 3 kids. I'm currently in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a new place for us. We've been here just a few minutes after we traveled in our RV full time for almost a year. And before that, we were in Austin, Texas. And so I love heat. I'm a little scared of a North Carolina winter, but I'm excited to explore a new place.
I love it. You're so adventurous. I for me, thinking about being in an RV for a whole year, I'm just like, ooh, it sounds so exciting, but then it also sounds a little nerve wracking. So I live vicariously through you, friend.
Both are true. It is both exciting and nerve-wracking. I can attest to that. Is true in real life as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, you kind of mentioned during your introduction how, one of the things that you do with female entrepreneurs and business owners is really make sure they feel supported. And I know that's one of the things we want to talk about today is that support. And you and I have both recently had some experiences where we maybe didn't feel that support, or for me, it was really feeling seen or heard by the person that I was engaging with. So I am really excited to have a conversation around making sure that whether it is our customer or our member or client that we're serving, or even if it's our team members, how are we ensuring that they feel heard, that they feel seen, and that they feel validated. And that doesn't always mean that we have to be in agreement. It just means that we're making them feel seen and heard.
Absolutely. And I will tell you that I think internally in the team is probably the hardest place for me. I think that I come from probably some brainwashing of my childhood, or just the patriarchy. I don't know. But the idea that customer is always right. The customer comes first. And I think that over the course of building my own business, I've really focused on, but how does the business feel in alignment for me? How does the business feel in alignment for me? And as I've added additional team members to my team, it's a whole nother level of leadership that I know I am still juggling, definitely not mastering yet. But it's shifting that focus from the customer to also the team, and what is the right and self, right? And what is the balance of that tripod? And when things are kind of off, it can be really, really, really tricky.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, I think especially when we start off as solopreneurs and we're focused on our clients, it's really easy to have that very siloed, that very focused effort of, I want to make sure my client is seen. I want to make sure they feel heard. I want to make sure I'm supporting them in every endeavor that they have going on. But then sometimes, Tana, it's hard to just do a balancing act of, wait a minute, like I have to make sure that I'm taking care of myself too. So I'm really curious from you, like, what are ways when you were first starting the business and started that working with clients, like how did you make sure you were balancing between you and them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely starts with establishing what the client's needs are. And so sort of, initially scoping out what is it that you need, and then how does that match what I offer? And then where, if there's any like disalignment, how do we get you resourced for that? Because it might not be me, right?
Yeah.
And then over the course of time, as things shift and change, as business and life always does, we often need to come back to like, hey, I noticed the needs are changing. How do we make sure that things are still in alignment? And I know, like for me, as clients grow, there's always like the next level of problems, right? There's problems never go away. There's not a revenue goal or a profit goal or a health goal. Like there's always just another set of what I like to call constraints, right? Because there's always going to be some level of constraint to something. And so I think staying in contact, staying present where you actually are, and then addressing like, hey, things feel off, or we're not maybe meeting deadlines, or we can't get the information we need, whatever the particulars are is almost irrelevant. It's the point of making sure that we're touching base to, hey, we agreed to X, our needs are a little different than that, and so how can we get those needs met, but in a way that still feels in alignment and balanced for us both.
Right. Because, and I can tell you from my perspective, working with several fractionals, one of the things that I hear quite frequently is, the agreement that we signed was for X amount of hours per week or month, for a set dollar amount. And like, these are all the services and everything that I provide. But that client is asking for 5 more hours per week than what we agreed to, or and it's on a consistent basis. It's not just like, oh, it was one time and it's, like, this is such a great relationship. Like I'm gonna let that go. But this is like consistently, right? And so, but for some reason, there's this hesitation to go to the client and say, hey, wait a minute, like the agreement that we have in place is different from what you're actually needing and requesting of me. So we need to renegotiate that.
Absolutely.
And I, for some reason, think it's really hard for women leaders specifically when it comes to this. So I'd love to get your perspective on that. Is that what you're seeing as well? And why do you think that's true of us? Why do we have a hard time going back and renegotiating?
Yeah, I would say that I think it's almost a maternal instinct to care for other people. And there's if you've been a mother or you've been a caregiver of some, you know that like that baby comes first, and you have to figure it out. And so I think there's a lot of muscle memory in like putting others first. And I think that is definitely getting deconstructed in more recent years, that we need to have a better sense of self. Like you got to put the air mask on yourself first before you can, put it on the baby or the other person that you're caring for. So I think that there's just some really worn paths there, and you have to be really intentional about, wait a second, do I feel out of alignment? Okay, what is it that is out of alignment? Because sometimes it's also on you, right? Sometimes you're tired, you're hungry, you need a nap, you need a vacation day, you need to fill your cup in some other way. And so like you have to like get your stuff right first, and then come from a grounded place of like, oh, this is actually scope creep. And so I think that the way I typically will do that, I will say, yes, I can, and that's going to be an increase of hours. And so is that how you want me to handle it? I also want that from my team. If I ask for like this and then this and then this, I want you to say, yes, but here's what will have to be set aside if that's the direction I go. And then it's on me to be like, actually, you're right. Do those things first, and we'll push this to next week, right? So there's like always kind of a prioritization that needs to be handled. And so specifically with scope creep and clients, I usually try to say, absolutely, and then here's what it will take to get that done.
Yeah, I love that, because, and what I love about what you said is it wasn't a but, it was an and, right?
Yep.
Yes, we can do that. And this is what it's going to look like in order for us to achieve that. And I think sometimes it's the but that may get in our way.
Mhm.
Because in my own head, I'm like, ooh, but, and I list out
Mhm.
all the reasons why I can't. But what I
Yeah,
love about how you use the word and is now it created an opportunity versus a negative, right? So it was like, but
absolutely.
you list all the reasons why we can't, and here's how we can do that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I learned that working with a specific entrepreneur who liked to do a lot of new things, and so usually it was a conversation, right? Like, can the money be allocated to all of the different things? And I would say, yes, you could. There'd be a new idea. Yes, we can do that new idea. And here's either the point in which I think we can do it, or here is the sacrifice that we'll make in doing that. Is that the sacrifice that you want to make? And
Mm,
so it was so important to that particular entrepreneur that there was not negativity. And so I learned, like, in order to see her and validate what she really needed, I had to be like, absolutely, your money, you can do whatever you want. And then here's what I think the downstream effects of that will be. Which path do you like? And I'm a person who likes options. I want to know three different paths. I don't want it to be just like no, and here's why. I want to know yes, because like I feel like you can do anything you want in your whole life. You can do anything you want, and there are consequences to taking that path. And so I want to get a sense of like, okay, if I open, it's kind of like that door theory from like the game shows that you used to watch with your grandparents at, when they babysat you. There's door number one, there's door number two, there's door number three. And so I like to really focus on absolutely, we can do whatever it is that you want. Here is downstream what that will look like. Which outcome do you want, or a variation of outcomes? Because, right, sometimes, I mean, in the door scenario, we can't pick two and three, but certainly in plenty of the work that I do with clients, or even just in my own personal life, like, yes, my husband keeps saying, we need a new car because we have this like cute little Mini Cooper that we got all ready to be pulled by the RV. But as we go to do trips in it, we're like, we are big people. Why are we in this Mini Cooper? So I'm like, yes, we can get a new car, but we first need to think about blah 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 blah, and then we're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, yes, we can, and we need to wait for X, Y, and Z to happen before we execute on that. So stop looking at cars.
I love it. I love it. That's a great example too, though. Ironically, my husband and I are thinking about the same thing, and I was talking to him, and I was like, okay, so our current vehicle is paid off, right? And so what I would
Love
love,
a paid off vehicle.
right? There's nothing better than a vehicle that's paid off. Like that is just, oh, it just feels perfect. But what I said was, okay, great. So if we're gonna have a car note again, what if we take what we estimate that payment is going to be? Let's set that money aside for X amount of months, and then we'll do two things. First of all, we'll use that money as a down payment on the new vehicle.
Mhm.
Also, like this is a great way for us to budget in without
Mhm.
have that
Test the
money.
waters. Does that feel right?
Oh
So
God.
did we
Yeah.
enjoy having to set that money aside and the
Yes.
it took in the rest of life? Because right, some usually that means you might go out a little bit less, or you might, cancel something, or you might save a little bit less, whatever the story is, and you can
Mhm.
decide at the 6-month mark, do I like this? Does it feel worthy of a new car?
Exactly. Exactly. And those are just great ways because now I see validated and I feel seen, I feel heard. I have a concern
Mhm.
that we won't put as much money into savings. We won't, there's
Yeah.
certain things we won't do if we suddenly have this huge car note. And so yes, that just made me feel seen and heard though that yes,
Mhm.
we can accomplish this while also still being able to accomplish the things that we want to do long term. So I
Yeah.
love that and thinking about like that is a great way that I felt seen. That's a great way that I felt
Mhm.
heard. But I know you kind of talked about like your team members and how are you making sure that they feel that seen and that heard. So I'd love to to either hear a story of something that has recently happened or diving into like how have you been as the leader of your organization, right? How are you
Mhm.
making sure that your team feels seen and heard?
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it starts with a lot of communication, right? I know we typically have an all hands meeting where it's a little bit about like what's going on in the business, but it's a lot of like, how are you? Who are you? Share your life, like connection points that are not about the did this get done or was this right or how are we on track with that project, but really just like who you are, human to human. So we start with that on a weekly basis. And then, we do definitely have some one-on-ones, and we actually do that weekly for the most part, so that we can either get through some of the like to-dos that need to be done, or if we need to address anything that's happening and doing any reset on expectations or what have you. But again, this is definitely something that I am still working on. Like, how many times is too many times to meet? How many? And then, like in the world of like Slack and email and client portals, like there's so many places to communicate. And so, one of the things that we're actively looking to bring back into the business, and I say bring back because I had like a slightly different team a couple years ago when we did this, is we're going to go back to the Enneagram and using the Enneagram to help understand at kind of a base level, like who we are, and then create some common vernacular to have conversations with each other about, who you are in stress or who you are in rest or, who you are just at a base level. And then how can we support you when things are off? Because, like, I mean, again, just in my marriage, my husband does actually work with us too. It's like sometimes I have to know, oh, he's in his place of stress. I need to like reserve my feedback for a different time.
Mhm.
Right. And then, and then ask, permission. Are you ready to hear this? And that is something that I am still learning to navigate, I think, with my team. I'm all about like, oh, we're doing this thing right now. Here's what's going on. And I'm finding that that's not working as well. And so I need to find better ways to give feedback in a place when they're receptive. And so we're going to continue to have conversation about how can we do that constructively so that we all still really like to work together. Because I think that it's one thing to have the ability, like the know-how and the ability to do the job, but there's still that want to do the job, and that is so often related to culture and communication and who your coworkers are. And so we're going to just continue to work on creating cohesion there.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said, that it really truly does start with culture and who you are as an organization. Because I really do think that that's where it starts, right? If you're creating an environment where people feel comfortable, where they feel like they can say the things that need to be said, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, but I can say what I need to say, and everybody knows and understands that I'm coming from a place of love and compassion for the organization. It's not anything, even when it's something that is challenging or difficult to talk about. I'm not coming from a place of negativity. I'm actually trying to make us better. I'm trying to improve what we're doing, right? And creating that culture where people can actually say those things, it's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but one of the things, so you kind of talked about like permissions, and I wanted to share with you, Tana, it was one of the things that I did with my organization is when people would come in, and especially when it's a challenging conversation, right? When it's going to be that conversation, the person on the other side of the table, it's not going to be comfortable for them. How do I make sure that I'm setting up this environment going to be able to receive what needs to be said, right? And so I would actually ask for permission. Right. Hey, Tana, I need to have a conversation with you. And I just want to make sure, like, are you in a space where you can have a tough conversation? Or are you in a space where we could have, a conversation about, and be kind of specific in that? And just being on the other side, like being the person who's saying that, what I found is there were times when my team members would be like, I don't think I am. I'm getting ready to go into a meeting with a client, and I'm afraid that if we have this conversation now, I'm not going to go into that meeting in a good space.
Absolutely.
That feedback was amazing, right? Because I'm like, great. let's not have the conversation now then, but can we get it scheduled for tomorrow or for, next week, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
so that we can make sure that we're tackling whatever it needs to be,
Right.
needs to be discussed. But now I know, I know that they're not in a space to have that. Now, more times
Yeah.
than not, we're like, wanting to know more, wanting to kind of dive into the conversation. And so, yes, they were ready to have it. But in those spaces where, hey, this is not a good time for me, I needed to slow down and respect that, right? As
Yeah.
they're saying they're not ready. So don't have the conversation.
Yeah, and I think that in this remote environment where we can hop on a computer and we can work from our home or from a coffee shop, or we can, we're not all just congregated in the same place where you can kind of read the room a little, or you can like see mannerisms, or, you can't do that in the remote environment. We have to like hop on a Zoom call to see. And so I think that that's a new challenge for sure. It's a
Yeah.
new challenge to be managing people or just having communication virtually. Because again, I think as much as I love Slack, sometimes I think that it's like you almost need to hang out a little bit more often. And I think that's tricky too when people, the flexibility is so important to like having an aligned life. At least for me, I know it's one of my core values is I want flexibility. And then I know that I also sometimes have to remind myself that flexibility is great, so is structure. So how can I create a little bit more structure so that I can show up well for others, whether that be clients or team or whoever? And so when things start to feel like things are off kilter, okay, then I need to circle back to, okay, what are the structures that support? What are the structures that I need to feel grounded? And I actually regularly ask my team that too. Like, what are you doing to take care of yourself so that you can show up well for all of your things? What are you doing to take care of yourself so that you feel grounded? And in making the space, because like sometimes you just need a reminder, right? You're like, oh, right, I haven't moved my body in a really long time, or oh, right, I keep staying up too late, or whatever the things are. And so you need that reminder that like in order to be grounded and ready to receive or ready to do with excellence, you often need to create some additional structure to make sure it's okay.
And I appreciate what you're saying too, because you're right. I think one of the big things is when you are in remote environments or even in hybrid environments, it's oftentimes we can forget that the person on the other side of the monitor, because we don't always see them, but that's a real human on the other side. Like there, and there's more times than not, there's not malicious intent or anything nefarious happening on that other side.
Yeah.
But it's the way we're reading the message that came in, right?
Yeah.
Text messages, Slack, other forms of communication like that is so hard. And so that's why, like, for me, I'm like, if I read something and I'm reading it kind of funny, I pick up the phone and I call that person immediately. And I'm like, hey, like, tell me about this message that you just sent, and what's going on there. Because oftentimes I find what was typed out and the way I read it, not the way they said it, the way I read it is not the way they intended it to be. And so I can, by picking up the phone and hearing their voice, I can determine whether, oh no, they were perfectly fine and I misread, or no, there is an issue here and we need to, dive deep into it. And it's just interesting how, different forms of communication, email, Slack, text messages, all those things, they're wonderful. They're such incredible tools for us to be able to use. But at the same time, there's also a restriction. You talked about, there's always constraints with everything. There is that constraint there of, you're not hearing that voice. You're not seeing their face. You're not able to look at their body language. So you really don't know 100% how it's being said, and you need to sometimes validate that.
Absolutely. And the nonverbal cues soften. Nonverbal cues soften in a way that like the typed out word often does not get received, right? And so and I think too, just in the flexible environment where you can pick up your kid, or you can only work part-time, or you can work late at night, that does get tricky. And so figuring out how to have some common time, some common time that everybody is online, so you can pick up the phone and you can have those things. That's another part of the structure that needs to happen in the business. Same with clients, right? Like if clients texted me at 10 o'clock at night, that would not be okay. Won't be doing that with my team either. But to have still done that common time that you can answer questions and be available for those kinds of things is really good too. Yeah.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I think one thing that, as we're talking, one thing that just keeps swirling around in my head is I think it's really, really important to know and to understand as a leader that just because you are validating someone or making sure that they feel seen or heard, it does not mean that you have to be in agreement with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important. It's like connecting at the human level and understanding that like life is lifing is very, very valid and important and should be done. And there's still performance, and there's still the the requirements that we have committed to clients, or the policies and procedures that we've set in order to have like the balance and show up in the way that we want to for people. And so they both need to occur, right? Connecting at the human level, understanding that stuff goes down, and this is still the standard that we need to be having in the business. And I think that kind of feels, it's a little like a teeter-totter sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely can be.
Yeah.
And again, I think just like, digital and written words can be misinterpreted, if you're not careful as a leader, validating someone can also lead to a misinterpretation that you're in agreement with them. So you need to have clarity when you're speaking to that person, when you're really truly trying to make sure that they feel seen and heard, that you are also getting across what you need to get across too, especially if that's not, hey, I'm not in agreement with you, but I hear you. I hear
absolutely.
what you're saying. I say it all the time. I just outright, I see you. I understand what you're saying, but can I also share with you my side, like a different perspective? And one thing I love to say is, can I play devil's advocate for just a second and try to see something a different way? And sometimes that opens up a conversation to be able to be had in a different way too. So there's definitely ways that you can validate and make someone feel seen and heard without necessarily just being in agreement with them.
Totally. I love to hear devil's advocate because, right, we get so like in our own stuff and our own to-do lists and our own like, safety mechanisms or safety behaviors. Like we get in our own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just like moving a half degree or just a little bit, you were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that. And so I actually love a perspective check. One of my favorite things to do when really, really stressed, I've not done this a ton of now, is to get high.
Mm-hmm.
So to find some way to be, it used to be like go hike to the top of the mountain. And again, I live in the mountains now, so apparently I can do that, but I'm scared of bears. So it's a whole problem. But anyway, but the perspective check of like going high to remind myself that even though I feel crazy stressed, all the people in all the houses are also having their own set of stress or crazy moments or whatever. And that somehow helps me feel like, oh, right, we just need to take the next right step. We just need to take the next right, like the next decision that can make things feel easier, lighter, etc. And I think that that's actually how leadership works. It's how client service works, right? You just take the next right step and trust that it will continue to work out. If you are, coming from a good place, it's going to work out.
Yeah, I love that you said. I love to say just one. What is one thing we can do? We don't have to make all the decisions, but what is just one? What is one step? What is one decision? What is one thing we can do? I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, friend, I knew this was going to be a fun conversation, especially when we wanted to dive into this topic. So I just want to thank you for coming on, for sharing your experience, and you're sharing where you're at with your team and some of the things that are happening for you. So thank you for that. Tana, I know you are such an amazing, what you do and the services that you provide, they're just incredible. If somebody wants to reach out to you and kind of connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn, so that's definitely an easy way to get inside of a message. They also can reach out. My website has a link to schedule a call. Whether we've got a couple different things. We've got like a alignment and opportunity call if you actually want to work together, or if you just want to be like, I'd love to, get to know. I've definitely got a 30-minute call for that too. Because again, I I love relationships. I at Human Design have a line 4, which I don't know if you have any context of that, but I love being in community with other people, and so I like to know people. So yeah, website, LinkedIn. Yeah.
So what's your website?
It's TanaKramer.com because we're going to make it really easy. TanaKramer.com. Yeah.
I love
TanaKramer.
I love that. Keep it super simple, right? That's what I love to say. Awesome. Sure. Well, friend, I'd love to end all of my conversations with 3 questions. And so the first one is, who is a woman of a former generation, someone who's been there, done that you would love to honor today?
I know, it's interesting. I was like, so history is not my place. My husband loves history. I'm always like, but every time you've said it, I've thought, and maybe this is just because of some conversations that you and I have been having, is my grandma B, who is on my dad's side, who I didn't have a ton of interaction with, but getting to know my dad's side of the family, he's Hawaiian Filipino. There's all of this. She might be related to the princess before Hawaii was taken over by the U.S. Like, there's all of this like history there that I'm actually dying to dig into. My dad keeps sending these little snippets, and so yeah, I would have to say Grandma B for sure.
I love that. Yeah. How fun! Oh, you're gonna have to share with me all the things that you find out.
Just reading the names is like a whole thing. You're like, why are there so many vowels? Because they're like, the lineage goes back so far, and you're like, I could not keep all of this straight. But it's super cool. So.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm excited. I cannot wait to hear. And then what about a woman of today? Who's a woman in business or leadership today that either empowers you to be your most, or that you hope to empower?
So I actually thought of 2 clients at this point, because I love getting to be part of their journey, and they are badass women who are doing cool stuff in the world. And so, I mean, I don't want to say their names just because they're clients and I don't know if they would appreciate that. But I have 2 clients in particular who I'm like, they are owning it, they're killing it, and they do inspire me to not only just continue to do great things in my own business, but to help also be a support system to them as they, continue to grow their own. So yeah, again, we'll just call them
your clients.
S and A. Yeah.
I love that. And then what about a woman of a future generation that you hope to inspire? Who would that be?
Definitely my daughter. She and her kids, she has worked for us historically, and then she did a summer internship she's a civil engineer. I'm like, please be in accounting. And she's like, no, I have no interest in accounting. She's been working there for several years, and she's quite good at it because the skill set of an engineer and an accountant is pretty similar. And so she came back to work for us for this last year, senior year of college, and she's so much more grown up. She has such a great head on her shoulders. And so we were talking about some things that were going on, in this business. And just the fresh perspective that she's bringing, I'm like, I cannot wait to see what she does in her real job and her real life, and then just who she will be for future kids. It's so much fun, so much fun. So
I love hearing you say that, because we went to dinner this week to celebrate my grandmother. It would have been her 91st birthday this week, and I looked over at a table, and there was a grandson, a dad, and a grandfather. You could tell that they were family. And as I was sitting there watching them, the thing that went through my head is, I wonder what it's like to be that grandparent or to be that parent who now is having adult conversation. Like I could overhear that
It's the best.
yeah, right. He's going off to college and he was super excited and he was sharing what he wants to do in the world, why he's wanting to do this. And the grandfather was pouring into him and sharing his experience in that same thing. And I just thought, man, how amazing that we get to experience, toddler, right? When we're baby talking with them all the way
Yeah.
to adulthood, where you now get to share experiences that are just so different and you get to help them see like the impact that they can make in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, parenting doesn't stop, it just changes. Like your relationship to, whether you're giving advice or you're just giving, have you considered, right, the devil's advocate of it all? Yeah, I would say parenting's a change. My mom comes today. I can't wait to see her. And I'm like, again, parenting never changes or make it. She'll probably still parent me at some level, but it'll be more from a sort of peer-to-peer, advice. And then my grandmother, she's 93 and she's a Spitfire. She's a Spitfire. I love her so much. She'll tell you exactly what she thinks.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, again, friend, I just want to thank you. Thank you for coming on, for having this conversation and sharing your story. And again, if you all want to connect with Tana, please make sure you connect with her on LinkedIn or visit her website. She is just an incredible person to get to know and a wonderful resource. So I thank you for tuning in this week and look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks again, Tana.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of ConvHERsations with Kristie. I hope you're walking away with a few nuggets of inspiration, maybe a new perspective, or just a reminder that you're not alone in your leadership journey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, drop us a comment, or tag us with your favorite takeaway. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep leading with heart, and keep building the kind of life and leadership that feels true to you. I'll see you in the next ConvHERsation.